So I just saw Alexander Payne's The Holdovers, and it was pretty fantastic. The Holdovers follows the Holdovers. Three people who are forced to stay at the New England prep school at which they work for various reasons. One, a curmudgeon-y professor, one, a cook, and one, a student. And it's pretty amazing. Alexander Payne is doing amazing work here. I've not seen a ton of his movies. He's a director I've always been interested in. I saw Nebraska quite a few years ago. I don't remember it very well, but I remember how I felt. And I've always kind of been excited for whenever I end up seeing another one of his movies. I've just been putting them off, but The Holdovers, I could not put it off any longer, and he's just doing amazing stuff here. The movie is exactly what it wants to be, largely because of him, and what it wants to be is just like a classic, great American movie from the 70s, and it totally nails that. The movie starts with kind of retro opening title cards with little crackles, and you just get locked into that feeling. It really does feel like a movie that you would see that came out in like 1978 and has like 8 Oscar nominations. It really just, it feels incredibly classic, and that is largely in part to Alexander Payne's direction, but also in part to a really great script by David Hemingson. And I found this very interesting because Alexander Payne normally writes his own movies, or at least co-writes them. So when I saw a sole writing credit that was not Alexander Payne, I was very interested. And it's even more interesting because this is actually David Hemingson's first ever feature film script. He's been working for over 25 years, but it's primarily been as a TV writer for shows like 101 Dalmatians, the series, Kitchen Confidential, and Whiskey Cavalier. So he's had a very varied career, and it's somehow led him to writing the script for The Holdovers, which is amazing and is really well written. The movie is funny throughout, but it does not compromise the kind of undercurrent of sadness that goes through the movie and is very powerful. And the jokes are not obsessed with themselves. They don't take the attention away too much. It feels very lived in. The jokes feel very of the world and like stuff that could happen naturally. And I think a big part of why the movie feels so lived in and so good is the 3 central performances, which are all spectacular. Start with Paul Giamatti. He plays Paul Hunnam. He's the professor who has been chosen to stay back and watch The Holdovers. And he is curmudgeon-y, and most people don't like him. And he has this amazing lazy eye, which I believe is a contact lens, but Giamatti still uses to his advantage in amazing ways, and they make reference to it in a lot of great ways. But he just plays the character really great. He plays like the kind of stuck in his way, but deeply sad inside feeling that the character clearly kind of lives in. He's pretty spectacular. Backing him up, divine Joy Randolph as Mary Lamb, who is one of the cooks at the school. She is amazing. She is a character who is going through something very tough in her life at the time of the movie. It's revealed quite early on, but I liked learning it as I was watching the movie, so I'll leave that up to you as well. She plays this kind of stoic, deep inner sadness in the way that I feel if I met someone who was like her in real life, that is exactly how they would act. Without giving context, there is a scene where she incredibly effectively communicates without dialogue that she's around the right people in the right place at the right time. And it's a very powerful moment, and it's very understated, but she totally sells it. She also sells, the fact that she's no BS. She just really sells the character. She's really great here, really constant presence throughout the movie where the other 2 main characters are kind of bickering or fighting constantly. She is this constant presence who, she does have her own troubles, yes, and she's dealing with them, but she's just a safe place throughout the movie. She's really fantastic. At the moment, I'm rooting for her to win the Academy Award for Supporting Actress. I think she's really great in this movie. But as good as Giamatti and Randolph are, I think the real standout, who I just found unbelievable, is Dominic Sessa, who plays Angus Tully, the young student holdover, who is having a very complicated life. He's learning things about people in his life. He's got things he's dealing with. And he's a kid. He's a kid in high school. And he plays that so unbelievably well. This is Dominic Sessa's first ever acting role. I believe he was a student at the school that they were shooting the movie at, and they just plucked him up and said, you need to be in this movie. And thank God they did. I can't really picture anybody else playing this role as well as he did. He brings so much truth and life to it. There are multiple scenes where where Alexander Payne just has the camera do either a very slow zoom in or a very slow zoom out, and it's just to watch Dominic Sessa cook. Like, it's a type of shots that you would see on someone like Paul Giamatti or like veteran actors who you know that they can handle any material and destroy the scene. And Dominic Sessa just owns it. He's an amazing screen presence, and he's someone that I'm gonna try and see most of his movies now. He is really a spectacular discovery. He's really amazing, and I'm really rooting for him to get a supporting actor nomination. Supporting actor is a bloodbath this year, and yes, I know the Oscars don't matter, but I want this for him because he really deserves it. And one other element of his performance that I cannot fail to mention, and an element of the movie as a whole, is the relationship between him and Paul Giamatti's character. That is the true heart of the movie, the way their relationship progresses, all the different points it goes to, and that was just something really, really special to see. The chemistry between them was incredibly believable, and the arc was incredibly believable. That kind of goes to my next idea, which is that this movie does an amazing job of capturing life's little moments, and not only between people, but kind of on the inside, the way that on a daily basis we perform to people, the way we lie to people to get out of an awkward moment, the way we investigate things or people that we're interested in, but we can't be outward about that investigation. It's all handled so well, and it just feels incredibly real, and it just feels true to life, and that feeling really settles in. And because of that feeling, and because of the performances, the movie really hits the emotional beats. There's a point near the end of the movie where I kind of thought to myself, damn, like, I really wish I had cried during this movie, which is kind of a strange thought, but it just felt like a movie that I was really down to cry at. And like almost immediately after that thought, the movie, it made me cry at the exact correct moment, like the exact moment that I wanted to. The scene did not feel forced, it did not feel heavy-handed. It just felt real, and that really got a big reaction out of me. I really loved it. I think this movie is just kind of awesome. I think although the movie puts a lot of effort into trying to feel like a classic movie from another time, I think it almost feels kind of destined to go down as a classic movie from this time. I think a lot of people are going to make this a kind of regular rotation Christmas/holiday movie. I mean, I will be for sure. I love this movie. I can just see myself on random December day just being like, yeah, I'll watch The Holdovers. And a big reason that I feel that feeling, and I think a lot of people feel that feeling, is because there's an incredibly cozy movie. And Mr. Alexander Payne, I know you came out and said recently that you kind of detest the idea that this movie is cozy. And I know you made the movie, and I know you're a great director, but with all due respect, I disagree. This movie is super cozy. I understand what he meant. There's a lot more complexity than just coziness going on here, but it is cozy. It is a very cozy movie, and I think that'll go a long way for it. This movie just rips. It shreds, man. It's really great. I know I said earlier the Oscars don't matter, but I'm rooting for this movie to get quite a few Oscar nominations because, as I said before, it feels like a movie that came out in 1978 and got 1 million Oscar nominations. So I'm really rooting for that. I would recommend this movie to anybody. I saw it opening night, 9:15 showing. It was me and only 2 other people in the theater, but I still had like a really great time. I almost definitely am going to see this again in theaters. I really want to try and see it with a big crowd and just get that crowd feeling that this movie should have. Yeah, I mean, the movie is just really great. I know this video is a bit long. I've talked about this movie quite a bit. If you've stuck around till now, I appreciate that. I would recommend this movie to anybody and everybody. I think there's something for everybody here as long as you're open-minded to a movie like this, which why wouldn't you be? So yeah, go see The Holdovers. I highly, highly recommend it. It's quite easily one of the best movies of the year. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye!